So I want to talk about how most PTs are playing it too safe. Let's give some advice to new grad PTs how to like actually grow their careers. Sure. So what do you think is a good way for a new PT to actually grow their career?
I think a lot of PTs don't realize that there's more out there for them than just being a staff clinician. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but I think that pursuing areas where they want to be excellent is something that PTs don't always think about or necessarily go for. I think that, not taking a risk and wanting to be the go-to person for a specialty at work, or not wanting to be the person that, oversees the students, or not being the person who's going to be the resource as, an expert in something. I think that sometimes we undersell ourselves and aren't confident enough in our skills and confident enough about what gets us out of bed in the morning and what we're excited about. And so I think that being willing to say, like, I'm going to take a next step and we'll see what happens, and it may not go super smooth and it may not be easy, but I can do this. And just being a little bit more confident about areas that they want to continue to grow in and continue to, be exceptional in.
Yeah. I think when I think about career building and I think about where I am today, I think starting a little bit with the end in mind, if you have a clear vision of what that looks like, is important.
Yeah.
But clinic ownership isn't for everybody,
sure.
Right? We both know that. So I think, getting comfortable, like the simplest form of it is getting comfortable being uncomfortable.
Yeah.
When I think back of like being a clinic director when I first, or I guess I'd call it I was still the owner of the clinic, but I was a de facto clinic director.
Yeah.
I'd never done the job before and I stunk at it. Ask everybody who was here 5 years ago. Gino will be the first to tell you. It just wasn't it's not really in my skill set. It was a steep learning curve, but that discomfort made me naturally just get better at it because I just learned and failed and learned and failed and learned and failed. Yeah. That can be, a real strong strategy for somebody who's, a younger PT or a new grad. Take on projects that you think you might not be able to handle, or, take on a per diem job with a different documentation system and a different kind of, in a SNF or in a home care environment or in a hospital environment where they document completely differently and they treat completely differently.
Yeah. I've been a PT for 10 years and I'm uncomfortable every single day at work. Yeah. Every single day, to some extent, for some reason or another. And, initially, after getting pretty comfortable within my clinical skill set and as a clinician, was like, this is okay. I'm good with like being a little bit comfortable sometimes. And since entering into a leadership role, I realized, you just don't get to be comfortable. And that's been the biggest thing that's helped me to grow. And so if a clinician who's been a PT for 10 years can be uncomfortable every day and just kind of own it, I think that a new grad PT especially should have no problem being uncomfortable every day, because they're new. Like, they should be uncomfortable. Everything should be uncomfortable at first.
Yeah, check your ego at the door. And that's very difficult. But if your ego is too strong, you'll never really grow and change and learn. So you want to grow in your career, that's great, but like the first thing you have to do is check that ego, and the adulation and the success will come.